In the year of the elephant, a young boy named Zayd was taken from his home in Africa, far from his family and everything he knew. He was sold into slavery in the land of the Arabs, and his life took an unexpected turn when he was purchased by a merchant from the Quraysh tribe of Mecca. As Ibn Kathir records in Al-Bidaya wa al-Nihaya, this merchant was none other than Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the wife of the noble merchant Muhammad ibn Abdullah. May Allah bless him and grant him peace. Zayd was given to Muhammad as a gift, and thus began a bond that would shape the course of history. Zayd's life in Mecca was one of servitude, but he was treated with kindness and respect by Muhammad. As Al-Tabari reports in his Tarikh al-Rusul wa al-Muluk, Muhammad saw in Zayd a young man of great potential, and he took it upon himself to educate him, both in the ways of commerce and in the virtues of faith and morality. Zayd, in turn, showed unwavering loyalty and devotion to Muhammad, seeing in him not just a master, but a mentor and a guide. The streets of Mecca were filled with the chatter of idol worship and the whispers of doubt, but Muhammad was a beacon of truth in a world of darkness. He received revelations from Allah, transmitted through the angel Gabriel, and began to preach the message of Islam. Zayd, witnessing the profound change in Muhammad, was drawn to this new faith. As Ibn al-Athir notes in Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, Zayd was one of the earliest converts to Islam, embracing the faith with a fervor that would define his life. The message of Islam spread quietly at first, but it soon attracted the attention of the Quraysh leaders, who saw it as a threat to their way of life. Muhammad and his small band of followers faced persecution, and Zayd stood by his side, ready to defend him at all costs. The Prophet's house became a sanctuary for the oppressed, and Zayd, with his strong character and steadfast faith, became a pillar of support for the early Muslim community. The tension in Mecca grew, and the Muslims faced increasing pressure to abandon their faith. Yet, as Ibn Khaldun observes in Al-Muqaddimah, the more they were persecuted, the stronger their resolve became. Zayd, like the other early converts, demonstrated extraordinary courage and resilience. He was not just a follower, but a leader in his own right, setting an example for others with his unwavering commitment to Islam. The story of Zayd ibn Haritha is one of transformation, loyalty, and faith. From a slave boy to a freed man, from a stranger in a foreign land to a beloved companion of the Prophet, his journey is a testament to the power of Islam to change lives. His tale is woven into the fabric of Islamic history, a story of hope and perseverance that continues to inspire. One man stood against 1,000 armed only with his faith and a sword. His name was Zayd ibn Haritha, and he was about to change the course of history. The year was 623 CE, and the Muslim state was still in its infancy. The Quraysh of Mecca, bitter enemies of the Muslims, had been harassing and attacking them for years. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had received revelation from Allah that it was time to defend the fledgling Muslim community. The first raid of the Muslim state was about to begin. The stakes were high. If the Muslims failed, their very existence would be threatened. Mecca was the heart of the Quraysh's power, and their caravans were the lifeblood of their economy. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, saw an opportunity to strike a blow against the Quraysh, while also protecting the Muslim community from further harm. The target was a caravan led by Abu Sufyan ibn Harb, a prominent leader of the Quraysh. According to Al-Tabari, the caravan consisted of 1,000 camels laden with goods worth a fortune. Zayd ibn Haritha, a former slave who had been freed by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was chosen to lead this critical mission. He was known for his bravery, his unwavering faith, and his tactical acumen. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, placed great trust in Zayd, appointing him as one of his most trusted commanders. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in his Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said to Zayd, "Lead them with wisdom and justice, and rely on Allah for success." The journey to the caravan was fraught with danger. The Muslims had to travel through treacherous terrain, avoiding the patrols of the Quraysh. Zayd chose his path carefully, avoiding the main roads, and instead taking a route through the mountains and deserts. His strategy was to catch the caravan by surprise, striking quickly and decisively. The element of surprise would be their greatest advantage. As they approached the caravan, Zayd faced a moment of doubt. According to Ibn Kathir in Al-Bidaya wa al-Nihaya, the scouts reported that the caravan was heavily guarded, and the Quraysh were aware of the Muslims' approach. The risk of failure was high, and the consequences would be severe. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had entrusted him with this mission, and Zayd knew that he had to act with courage and faith. Zayd gathered his men and addressed them, his voice steady and calm. He reminded them of their cause and the importance of their mission. He spoke of the prophets who had faced greater odds and emerged victorious through their reliance on Allah. His words inspired his men, and they renewed their determination to succeed. The battle began at dawn. The Muslims, outnumbered but undaunted, launched a swift and coordinated attack. Zayd led from the front, his sword flashing in the early morning light. The Quraysh, caught off guard, struggled to mount a defense. The Muslims fought with the ferocity of believers, their faith driving them forward. According to Al-Tabari, the battle lasted only a short time before the Quraysh began to retreat, their caravan falling into the hands of the Muslims. The victory was a turning point for the Muslim community. It proved that they could stand against their enemies and emerge victorious. The caravan's goods were distributed among the Muslims, providing much-needed resources and supplies. The event, known as the Raid of Al-Aqaba, marked the beginning of the Muslim state's military engagements. It was a testament to Zayd's leadership and the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, strategic vision. But the victory came at a cost. The Quraysh, humiliated and enraged, vowed to seek revenge. They began to prepare for a larger conflict, one that would test the resolve of the Muslim community like never before. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers looked to the future, they knew that greater challenges lay ahead. With only 300 men against a heavily fortified enemy, Zayd ibn Haritha faced an impossible choice. The year was 626 CE, and the nascent Muslim state was under siege from multiple fronts. The Quraysh of Mecca, along with their allies, sought to crush the Muslims once and for all. The small Muslim community in Medina was outnumbered and surrounded, but their faith and resolve were unshaken. The stakes were clear. If Zayd and his men failed, the Muslim community would be wiped out. The very existence of Islam was at risk. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, the disbelievers of Mecca had gathered a formidable force, determined to eradicate the new faith. The Muslims, on the other hand, were few in number but rich in determination and divine guidance. Zayd ibn Haritha, the freed slave and trusted companion of the Prophet Muhammad, was tasked with leading a crucial expedition to the region of Najd. The Prophet Muhammad had received intelligence that a group of Bedouins, known as the Banu Lahiyan and Banu Thalaba, were gathering forces to attack Medina. Their numbers were estimated to be around 1,000 warriors, a significant threat to the small Muslim community. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tarikh al-Rusul wa al-Muluk, the Prophet Muhammad consulted his companions and chose Zayd ibn Haritha to lead this critical mission. Zayd's strategic mind and unwavering courage made him the ideal leader for this perilous task. The Prophet Muhammad instructed Zayd to take a small detachment of 300 men and intercept the enemy before they could reach Medina. Zayd's strategy was clear. He would use the element of surprise and the terrain to his advantage. The Banu Lahiyan and Banu Thalaba were not united. They were two separate tribes with different agendas. Zayd planned to exploit this division by striking at a moment when the tribes were not fully coordinated. He chose to march his men through the rugged and arid landscape of Najd, knowing that the enemy would not expect an attack from such a direction. According to Ibn Kathir in Al-Bidaya wa al-Nihaya, Zayd's men moved swiftly and silently under the cover of night. They traveled light, carrying only their weapons and minimal supplies. Their goal was to reach the enemy before dawn and launch a surprise attack. The journey was grueling, but the men were driven by their faith and the knowledge that the future of their community depended on their success. As they approached the enemy camp, Zayd faced a moment of doubt. The scouts reported that the tribes had joined forces and were now a united front of 2,000 warriors. The odds were stacked heavily against them. Zayd paused to consider his options. He knew that a direct confrontation would likely result in heavy casualties, if not complete annihilation. However, retreating was not an option. The safety of Medina and the Muslim community hung in the balance. Zayd turned to his men and reminded them of the Prophet Muhammad's words, "Fight in the name of Allah and in the way of Allah. Do not be excessive, for Allah does not love the excessively arrogant. And do not betray, for Allah does not love traitors." Sahih al-Bukhari. With renewed determination, Zayd devised a new plan. He would divide his forces into smaller groups and launch a series of coordinated attacks from different directions. This tactic would create confusion and weaken the enemy's morale, making them vulnerable to a final assault. The plan worked flawlessly. As dawn broke, the enemy was caught off guard by the sudden and relentless attacks from multiple fronts. The tribes, unprepared for such a strategy, began to falter. Their unity crumbled as they struggled to defend themselves against the disciplined and determined Muslim forces. According to Al-Tabari, the Battle of al-Muraysi lasted for several hours, with the Muslims fighting with unmatched courage and skill. In the end, the tribes suffered heavy losses and were forced to retreat. The Muslim forces, though vastly outnumbered, emerged victorious. The threat to Medina was neutralized, and the Muslim community was once again safe. Zayd ibn Haritha's leadership and tactical brilliance had saved the day. But the victory was not without its cost. Many of Zayd's men were injured, and some had made the ultimate sacrifice. As the Muslims returned to Medina, they were greeted with relief and gratitude. The Prophet Muhammad praised Zayd's bravery and strategic genius, acknowledging that his actions had once again protected the Muslim community from a grave danger. However, the relief was short-lived. News soon arrived that the Quraysh of Mecca were preparing for another major offensive. The threat to the Muslim community was far from over. As Zayd and his men recuperated, they knew that their next challenge would be even greater. The fate of Islam hung in the balance, and the Muslims would need to summon all their strength and faith to face the trials that lay ahead. In the year 627, the Muslim community in Medina faced a critical test. With only 300 men, the Prophet Muhammad sent Zayd ibn Haritha to lead a raid on a caravan heading from Mecca to Syria. The stakes were high. The caravan carried vital supplies, and its loss would strike a blow to the Quraysh. Yet the risks were great. According to Ibn al-Athir, the caravan was guarded by 1,000 well-armed men, and failure could mean the loss of Zayd and his small force. Zayd, a freed slave who had become one of the Prophet's most trusted commanders, was chosen for this mission due to his bravery, tactical acumen, and unwavering faith. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tarikh, Zayd was known for his ability to inspire his men, even in the face of overwhelming odds. His strategy was clear: strike quickly and decisively, catching the caravan off guard before they could organize a defense. The target was the caravan moving through the region of Alis, a stretch of land between Mecca and Medina, where the terrain offered both opportunities and challenges. The journey to Alis was fraught with danger. Zayd and his men traveled by night, avoiding detection by the Quraysh scouts. Their path took them through rugged terrain, where every step was a test of endurance. As Ibn al-Athir notes, Zayd's knowledge of the land was crucial. He had fought in these regions before and knew the best routes to avoid ambushes. His men, though few in number, were chosen for their loyalty and skill, and their faith in Allah's guidance was their greatest strength. As they neared Alis, Zayd faced a moment of doubt. Scouts reported that the caravan's guards had been alerted to their approach, and reinforcements were on their way. The odds were shifting against them. According to Al-Tabari, Zayd paused to consider his options. He could retreat and live to fight another day, or press forward, risking everything for the chance to strike a blow against the Quraysh. In a moment of quiet reflection, Zayd sought guidance through prayer, trusting in Allah's wisdom. The resolution came swiftly. Zayd decided to press on, but with a new strategy. He split his men into smaller groups, each attacking from a different direction. This tactic would confuse the caravan's guards and prevent them from mounting a coordinated defense. As Ibn al-Athir recorded, the plan worked flawlessly. The guards, overwhelmed by the sudden and simultaneous attacks, were unable to defend themselves effectively. The caravan was seized, and the supplies were secured for the Muslim community in Medina. But the victory was not without cost. As Zayd and his men prepared to return to Medina, word reached them of a larger Quraysh force marching to intercept them. This new threat loomed on the horizon, and Zayd knew that the battle was far from over. The choice between retreating to safety or standing their ground would test their resolve once again. The year was 6 a pivotal time for the fledgling Muslim state. With only 70 men under his command, Zayd ibn Haritha faced an urgent mission: to engage the powerful kingdom of Al-Hira, a Persian vassal state whose rulers had long oppressed the Arabs of the region. The stakes were high. Failure would not only jeopardize the safety of the Muslim community, but also undermine the Prophet Muhammad's efforts to establish Islam beyond the Arabian Peninsula. Al-Hira, located along the Euphrates River in present-day Iraq, was a center of Persian influence, and its king, al-Nu'man III, had become a thorn in the side of the growing Muslim power. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, recognized the strategic importance of Al-Hira and saw an opportunity to extend the reach of Islam. He entrusted Zayd ibn Haritha with this critical mission, a testament to Zayd's proven leadership and the deep trust the Prophet had in him. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, chose Zayd ibn Haritha for this mission because of his wisdom, bravery, and unwavering commitment to Islam. Zayd's task was clear: to rally the tribal confederations loyal to the Muslims in the region and to engage the forces of Al-Hira in a strategic maneuver that would secure the area for the Ummah. Zayd's force of 70 men was vastly outnumbered. Al-Hira could muster thousands of soldiers, backed by Persian resources and military might. The geographic challenge was immense. The Euphrates Valley was a fertile but heavily fortified region, with Al-Hira's capital, Al-Anbar, serving as a major stronghold. Zayd knew that direct confrontation would be disastrous. Instead, he devised a strategy that leveraged the element of surprise and the support of local tribes who had long suffered under Persian rule. Zayd's plan was to move swiftly and stealthily, avoiding major fortifications and engaging the enemy in guerrilla tactics. He sought to rally the Banu Bakr ibn Wa'il and other tribes sympathetic to the Muslim cause, knowing that their support would be crucial in weakening al-Hira's grip. According to Al-Tabari in al-Tarikh al-Rusul al-Muluk, Zayd ibn Haritha's strategy was to avoid pitched battles and instead to strike at the enemy's supply lines and fortifications, using the terrain to his advantage. The mission began with Zayd sending scouts ahead to gather intelligence on the movements of al-Hira's forces. He knew that time was of the essence, and any delay could mean disaster. However, as the scouts reported back, the scale of the challenge became clear. Al-Hira had stationed troops along key routes, and the Banu Bakr ibn Wa'il, though sympathetic, were hesitant to commit without clear signs of Muslim strength. Zayd faced a moment of real difficulty. Doubt crept in as he considered the odds. The scouts reported that Al-Hira's forces were better equipped and more numerous. The tribes, though willing, were not yet ready to rise up. Zayd knew that failure here would not only mean the loss of his men, but could also discourage future efforts to extend the reach of Islam. He sought guidance through prayer and reflection, trusting in Allah's plan. In a pivotal moment, Zayd decided to split his forces. A small detachment would engage the enemy in a series of diversionary attacks, drawing their attention and resources away from the main mission. The larger group, under Zayd's direct command, would move swiftly to secure the support of the Banu Bakr ibn Wa'il and other allied tribes. This tactic, as recorded by Ibn Kathir in Al-Bidaya al-Nihaya, was designed to create confusion among the enemy ranks and to rally the tribes to the Muslim cause without direct confrontation. The strategy proved successful. The diversionary attacks forced Al-Hira's forces to scatter, leaving key areas vulnerable. Zayd's main force moved quickly, rallying the tribes and securing their loyalty. The Banu Bakr ibn Wa'il, inspired by the courage and determination of the small Muslim force, pledged their support. This alliance significantly weakened Al-Hira's position and opened the way for future Muslim incursions into the region. As the mission neared its conclusion, Zayd knew that the work was far from over. The success at Al-Hira was a critical step, but the larger struggle for the expansion of Islam was just beginning. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had laid out a vision that extended far beyond the immediate conflict. Zayd's mission had set the stage for future expeditions, but the road ahead was fraught with challenges. As Zayd's forces prepared to return to Medina, a letter arrived from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It contained instructions for the next phase of the mission, a phase that would test the resolve and strategic acumen of Zayd ibn Haritha once again. The letter would change everything, setting the stage for a new chapter in the saga of the Muslim Ummah. In the year 6 AH, with winter's chill still gripping the lands of Arabia, a call to arms echoed through the Muslim stronghold of Medina. Zayd ibn Haritha, the freed slave and now esteemed commander of the Prophet Muhammad's forces, was tasked with a mission that would test the mettle of the fledgling Muslim state. 300 fighters, the vanguard of Islam, stood ready to face the might of the Sasanian Empire, whose forces had convened just beyond the fertile lands of Al-Hira. The stakes were impossibly high. Failure meant not just the loss of life, but the potential collapse of the Muslim state, which had only recently begun to establish its roots. The Sasanian Empire, one of the great superpowers of the time, had already shown its displeasure with the rising influence of the Muslims. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in his Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, the Sasanians had rallied their forces in the northern region of Al-Hira, a strategic stronghold with its own garrison and allies among the local tribes. The Muslims, on the other hand, had only 300 men, a fraction of the enemy's forces. Zayd ibn Haritha, known for his wisdom and tactical acumen, understood the gravity of the situation. He had been entrusted with leading this small but determined group into the heart of enemy territory. As Al-Tabari reported in his Tarikh al-Rusul wa al-Muluk, Zayd summoned his men and spoke to them with a calm that belied the danger they faced. He reminded them of their duty to Allah and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and of the promise of reward in the hereafter. His words were not those of a mere military leader, but of a man deeply rooted in faith and conviction. The plan was audacious. Zayd knew that direct confrontation with the Sasanian forces would be suicidal. Instead, he opted for a strategy of deception and swift strikes. He divided his small force into two groups, with one led by himself and the other by Khalid ibn al-Walid, another esteemed commander. Their goal was to strike the Sasanian vanguard with lightning speed, creating chaos and confusion before the enemy could rally their full strength. The terrain of Al-Hira was a mix of flat plains and scattered oases, providing both opportunities and challenges for Zayd's tactics. The Sasanian forces, numbering in the thousands, were spread out, their commanders confident in their numerical superiority. As Ibn Kathir noted in Al-Bidaya wa al-Nihaya, the Sasanian vanguard was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the Muslim forces. Zayd and Khalid's simultaneous attacks created a whirlwind of confusion, with the Muslims striking with such ferocity that the enemy's lines began to falter. However, the battle was far from easy. According to Al-Tabari, Zayd found himself facing a moment of real difficulty as the Sasanian forces began to regroup. The enemy's numbers were overwhelming, and for a brief moment, doubt crept into the minds of some of the Muslim fighters. Zayd, ever the steadfast leader, rallied his men with words of encouragement and reminders of their ultimate goal. He emphasized the importance of trust in Allah and the righteousness of their cause. The crisis passed, and Zayd's tactics proved their worth. The Muslims' swift and coordinated attacks had sown seeds of panic among the Sasanian ranks. The enemy, despite their numbers, found themselves unable to mount an effective counterattack. As Ibn al-Athir recorded, the Sasanian vanguard was shattered, their forces falling into disarray. The Muslims, though vastly outnumbered, had achieved a decisive victory, proving once again the power of faith and strategy combined. But the story did not end with the victory at Al-Hira. As the dust settled and the Muslims celebrated their triumph, news reached them of a new threat on the horizon. The Sasanian Empire, though wounded, was far from defeated. Rumors of a larger force gathering in the north sent a wave of concern through the Muslim ranks. The question now was not just how they had won this battle, but whether they could sustain their momentum against the coming storm.